You can't do a search of Justin Brown on YouTube without pulling up Pascal Lebouf's track, W.A.I.T.T. Well, in this video series, I'll teach you how to play the track, how to play it like Justin, and how to do just a little bit of the solo stuff Justin's doing on it. I'm Nate, this is the 80/20 Drummer. Stay tuned. Okay, so in this video, we're going to use a couple of frameworks that I've developed to put yourself in the shoes of what if you had to step in and sub for Justin Brown playing this tune. So in video one, we're going to look at the structure of the tune, the time signatures, and kind of the way you would play your own thing over that, with a few tips about how to tighten up your time feel and make it sound more like Justin. And then in video two, we're going to look more specifically at some of the really advanced solo idioms he plays and how you can play those, play some of your own that are similar, and how do you practice that stuff to develop that vocabulary in your own right. So let's jump right in, and I want to talk to you very first about the structure of this tune. The main section of the track consists of two contrasting sections and a number of different time signatures interspersed that begin at a small unit, build on each other to larger units, and then collapse again at the end. And the section repeats itself once. Now let's get a little bit more deeply into what exactly is going on with the counting in those sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this may look confusing or intimidating, but you can make it all easier by approaching it from the beat up with a concept that I call the minimum effective beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. What's the minimum effective beat? It's essentially, if you had this chart put in front of you and you wanted to make sure that you played it with the bare minimum necessary ornamentation to be able to get the point across and still play the figures and supply a steady groove for the band, that is the minimum effective beat. Essentially, you're taking away anything fancy and just boiling it down to the bare essentials. So I'm going to teach you the first part of W.A.I.T.T. from the minimum effective beat up. So this will be transcribed for you, and you can see the repetitive nature of what I'm playing. And to learn this will probably take you about 5 minutes. You can practice it as slowly as you need to, and I recommend putting the metronome on 16ths the way I do. Okay, now let's see that even more slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. So viewed at this speed, when you reduce it to this small a chunk, this seems pretty manageable. Some things I'd pay attention to are something I call the personal drum troupe, which simply means imagining yourself as a drum line of multiple drummers, which is essentially what you are, and just making sure that you're playing together with yourself cleanly. That when your bass drum and hi-hats are supposed to occur simultaneously, they really do. Okay, so we're going to reconstruct the entire first section of the tune W.A.I.T.T, which is really the bulk, using this method. So before I move on to the second section, which gets a little more complex, I want to show you a little practice hack to tighten up your time and to eliminate the distance between you and Justin Brown. And that's to play the beat with the metronome on 16th offbeats. And you can do that as slow as necessary. And here you want to make sure you're really listening outside of the drum kit to the metronome and fitting your beat within the metronome. It might be frustrating at first because you'll discover a few places where your natural beat wants to push and pull. But the reason this tool is so effective is that we're used to following the metronome, and this technique forces us to guess about where the pulse is and use the metronome as a check and balance so that we'll get much stronger as band leaders. So you see, this could be your day one of practice. It's a fairly easy chunk to memorize and practice. And as you'll see in a second, you're quite a ways toward being able to play the tune already. Okay, now let's move on to the next section. So this is the second half of the opening section of the tune. And you can see here that it's this loop of 6 that repeats and then kind of collapses in on itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So again, let's use the minimum effective beat to take these one at a time. So let me take just the first part of that section, which is 2 big bars of 6, and show you a plausible minimum effective beat that I would play over the top of that. So this will be transcribed for you. And again, your main goal at this point, now that I've chosen a manageable chunk for you, should be to practice locking up with the metronome as faithfully as possible and really getting your rim shots clean. Okay, now let's go on to the little fractalized transition back to the A section, which of course is a bar of 6 and 2 bars of 5 that segues back into the top of the form. So this is the minimum effective beat, or one plausible minimum effective beat you could play for that section. Okay, so just like the other clip, you could simply loop this and practice it until it was comfortable. And then I would start reassembling the pieces. So in this next excerpt, you're going to see the minimum effective beat for the entire second half of the tune looped a couple times. So it'll be those 2 big bars of 6, the small bar of 6, and the 2 small bars of 5. Okay, so you see how we can put the second half together like that. Now I'm going to demonstrate basically playing the entire first half of the tune using only what we just learned here, those minimum effective beats. In case you had any doubt, here's what that sounds like. I'm only playing the minimum effective beats I just demonstrated to you here. And the great thing about that is that it strips away all the need to do fancy stuff and just allows you to focus on locking up completely with the tune. One of the secret reasons Justin Brown sounds better than we do is that he's internalized that pocket so deeply that he's able to play whatever he wants around the drum kit without worrying about getting sloppy. But it would be wrong-headed for us to step into Justin's shoes and think that we needed to do fancy stuff right off the bat. No, we need to take care of business, and we'll get 85% there just by playing the minimum effective beat cleanly, forcefully, and in the pocket. Okay, so in an emergency, if you needed to step in and play this track, W.A.I.T.T, tomorrow, you'd be about 65% there already. But of course, say you had another week to work on it, and you really wanted to develop some of your own artistry around it, using some of the methods that Justin Brown used to develop his vocabulary. So this will be teaching you how to play like a better version of yourself, learning from what Justin Brown probably practiced. Let's get into that a little. All right, now that we've covered the basic framework for how you could play the intro section to W.A.I.T.T from start to finish using only the minimum effective beat, let's get into a couple of ways that you could change things up and vary them. And I want to speak now about something I call the looping exercise, which if you're familiar with my channel at all, you've probably heard me speak about in the past. But essentially it just means if you're a DJ, you lift a track from an R&B record and you loop it together using your turntables so that you make a new beat, maybe out of an unexpected part of that. You can do the same thing with yourself when you're drumming, meaning you can improvise something, but then you can force yourself to repeat a loop of something, 2 bars, 4 bars. And in this case, we're going to use a loop of an entire section. So we're going to get into a couple of loops. But before we do that, I want to introduce one more device for expanding your ability to play around the drum kit without really putting hitches in the groove and the time feel you've already practiced in the first part. And that is orchestration. So again, we're going to take this tune section by section, and let's just take a look at how I might hypothetically orchestrate the first part. Here, I'm taking essentially what I played in the first half in the minimum effective beat, and simply by moving the ghost notes, which would have been on the snare drum, to the closed hats, and the right hand to the rim of the rack tom, I'm producing different interesting textures. This is a way to vary things up without changing the body choreography very much at all. Okay, now for the final bit of practice with this section, let me show you what I would do in a basic loop where I'm improvising, but only incrementally to start a new loop. Then I'm freezing on that loop for a couple times through the section before I vary things just a little bit. Obviously, this won't be perfect, but you'll get the idea. So here you see I start very much inside, and I only start to add variation very incrementally. And the key for this is that it's a way for you to dip your toe into improvisation without completely yard sailing and having a hiccup and having to stop. If you get just beyond your abilities, you can always retreat back. Okay, now let's move on to what's probably the most technically demanding section of this tune if you want to play it like Justin did, and that is the orchestration to the ride cymbal bell in the second half of the opening section. And this is an exercise that my coaching students don't even get to until like week 24, just because it's so difficult to add that extra layer of orchestration when you're playing on the ride cymbal bell. So if you want to baby step your way into this without it completely crapping up everything else you're doing, you can simply play in the center of the ride cymbal, what's called the bow, instead of on the bell. But let me show you this. So as you can see, I'm not changing much about the minimum effective beat there. I'm just moving one hand over to the bell of the ride cymbal in a strategic spot. And again, we're using a loop to practice this, and we're isolating just one section so that we don't have to worry about all the complexities of the entire tune just yet. All we're thinking about is, can we orchestrate to the ride cymbal bell and continue to play things cleanly? Okay, so now let me demonstrate for you a basic loop over the second half, the section I just demonstrated the orchestration with, and show how, again, I'll start inside and gradually orchestrate things to become more complex. Okay, so again, once you've practiced expanding your playing on a couple of these sections individually, the next stage will again be to put them together. And in the last section, I showed you what the minimum effective beat for the entire first half of the tune would sound like. Now you can loop the entire half of the tune, but I want to show you an additional wrinkle that I did, which is to move the right hand over to the ride cymbal and start playing with the left foot on the hats as if I'm playing a jazz tune. Just another way to kind of kick my brain into a different mindset so that I'm not frozen into these modules. So this is a pretty advanced thing, and the fact that you're incorporating your left foot means that there's also a peril of it getting not so clean. So I would say that you don't need to do it this way. It's just another possibility. What I would recommend is start with the minimum effective beat and just gradually introduce variation as you play over the whole tune. Okay, so that's what that'll look like apart from any context playing along with the tune. And now let me demonstrate for you sort of an intermediate finished product of orchestrating and playing slightly creatively, but hewing pretty closely to that minimum effective beat. And as you can see, even though what I'm playing is relatively basic, it's pretty adequate already for playing along with the track. In fact, of all the takes I did with the track, this is the one I would probably submit for an audition. And all I did was start with a minimum effective beat, develop a little bit of orchestration, and just make sure I was nailing the figures. Imagine that. Okay, so that's a crash course on how we would use my concepts of the minimum effective beat, the personal drum troupe, playing tight with yourself and practice with the metronome on the off beats in order to tighten that up, and the looping exercise to dip your toe into improvisation incrementally bit by bit without hiccuping and needing to stop, in order to jump you into playing the track W.A.I.T.T, the famous Justin Brown track by Pascal Leboeuf. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one. The transcriptions will be available at the link below. I will be back extremely soon with part 2 of this Justin Brown lesson, including how do we start to approach the solo that Justin plays in the last chorus. Until then, I'm Nate for the 80/20 Drummer. See you soon.